I take this moment to brag just a little bit?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
One of my littles, he is 7 years old now, and this summer he decided he wanted to go to camp. He wanted to go to computer coding camp, and so he learned, like, there's kind of like a it's called Scratch, is kind of the system where it's like you drag and drop your if statements or loops or various other things, and it's got a really good interface, and it makes coding, or at least coding concepts, really simple and easy. He breezed through that. He had already learned it before camp. He breezed through it during camp, and he wanted to go back a second week. So he goes back. Now he's learning Python,
Oh
and
boy.
he's typing it all the way. It's so good. He's really enjoying, which is wonderful. Here's what I'm bragging about. I noticed as I came upstairs to go to bed, on the kitchen table, he was doing some art. He was writing some, and he like makes games and writes lists all the time or whatever. But he's I was reading it. And I'm like, what does this say? And it says 10 knock, 20. If I say wait, go to 30. And then 30
Oh my
says
gosh.
go back to 1 or 10. And I'm like, he's right. He's got instructions on how to knock at his door, and he's writing it in BASIC. Is what I'm like, oh, it's got all the looping system with if and statements. I'm like, oh my word, child.
Oh, you're in trouble. You are in big trouble.
I know one of the things that we wanted to talk about today was this concept of P2E,
Yeah.
play to earn. And that is something that is somewhat contentious as it pertains to the gaming community. Some gamers think this is the greatest thing ever. Some don't think it's just a scam. And then there's a lot of washing in between, but it can be very dividing. And I figured it would be good for us to take some time to talk about it, especially since technically Blockstars is a play to earn. At least it would fall into that category. I know they don't like to fall into that
They
category.
don't. They don't. But yeah, I think they technically would. And so let's start out then by, so last week we talked about gambling meta, right? And
Right.
so
Yeah.
technically you do earn, you do play and you do earn, and sometimes, or you have the possibility of earning in
Right.
gambling, but P2E is very different than that. So let's kind of explore that first. Like, what is it and how is it different?
Well, I think because they are incredibly related, right? Because
Yeah.
you're playing a game and thus earning. I think this is more. I think the technical definition might actually include casino games, but the actual like societal definition would be more along the lines of, I want to play a traditional video game, like a game that I'm used to, like whether it be a Grand Theft Auto to Fortnite to Rocket League, and I want a viable means for me to make a living while doing so. Whereas gambling is something in addition, but this is play to earn, is more like, if I play, I will earn. Period. That's kind of where it has. And I think the origin of this, like the grandfather of all of the play to earn models, was kind of Axie Infinity, I would put out there, from the ETH space. Would that be a fair,
Yeah.
you think? Yeah.
That's from what I've researched as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that kind of introduced this concept that you could you have your axes, and they compete, and there's a card game attached to it, and you have your own ability playing into that. If you're better at it, you get a higher rank. At a higher rank, you earn more rewards at the season end, and those rewards are derived from other people coming in to play the game. And so you get a share of that based on how good you are at the game. And the idea is that, hey, I could play this. The way that Axie Infinity got popular was because there were so many people that were getting popular that it just kept getting more and more popular. It was like that snowball coming down the hill kind of idea. I don't. You're in Florida, maybe you don't understand that
Yeah,
analogy.
what are you talking about?
There's the Canadian in me
Yeah.
coming. This is a snowball going down a hill. So when you roll a snowball, I'm sure you understand. It just gets
Are
bigger and
you
bigger.
talking about like domino effect, sort of, maybe, or
Almost to see
okay,
like a
reverse domino effect, maybe?
well, so it's basically it's that exponential growth,
Yes.
right? The you kind of start and actually really had that. People really start like, hey, wait a second, people are actually making money in this game. More people came in. The pool of money that was in the game. So now it just it starts to grow and people are now taking money out, taking money. Oh, this is great. Yeah. And it continues to grow and more people are coming. But then it kind of hit that limit where there was no more new people coming in. And that's when it kind of crashed and things started going smaller and smaller. And the rewards that people are taking are much less and much less and much less. And you see that across many projects in the NFT space of like, there's the huge hype, you hit that wave, and then everything sort of kind of fades out at that point as the money dries up because no new people are coming in.
Right, right. Okay. So as soon as you started to say it starts growing and growing and people start coming and more people start coming, it sort of clicked for me because then I was like, oh, so it's like winter in Florida when all the Canadian tourists come to
All the snowbirds is what we call
exactly.
them.
Yes,
Yes.
when all the
Yes,
snowbirds are in town
exactly.
and I can't drive because the traffic is terrible. Now I get it. Okay. So okay, so that's Axie Infinity. And I get
Mm-hmm.
what you're saying. So it has to, technically yes, gambling is part of the genre, but it does have sort of a different flair if if you talk to people in the community that you're playing more of a traditional game or a game that's not wagering. But
Right.
you do still have to invest some of your own funds to get started.
Right. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And there is that idea of like this being an investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just like a passive investment. Like if you buy a stock, right, in the stock market, you own a portion of that company and you are betting that that company will do well, that they will succeed. And it's a bunch of other people working at the company.
Right.
You really have little impact. You may have like a vote per share and that can get a little but for the most part, you really have little impact on the day to day of what's going on in that company.
Absolutely.
For play to earn, you have control over your investment. If you're not going to play, you're not going to earn. If you are going to play, then you will earn. If you play well, you'll probably earn more.
Yeah.
That's the basic gist
Okay.
of
But
it.
where does the money come from initially?
Right. So typically it's like, oh, well, I've got like a 10,000 group limit, like, or like an NFT minting. Right. And so you've paid, 1 to 2 SOL for each of those mints. So you got your initial pool, you're at about 20,000 SOL. And then there's the buy and sell of secondary, maybe about 25,000 SOL. Great. That's your initial pool. But where are you going to get new money? Because at that point, the rest of the people that are playing the game are new coming in. They have to buy an NFT, not from you, but from somebody else.
Okay.
And that means that you only get, as a company, you're only getting about 10% of
The
that.
royalty is what you're getting.
You're getting the
Okay.
royalty. And so you don't have as much. So even if you start off, great, you start off with 10,000 players, but the next 10,000, it you have to get 100,000 players to get the same amount of money for the next iteration
Right.
of players.
Right.
And it just gets worse and worse and worse after that. Like it's really tough to do.
Because that liquidity pool is not infinite.
Exactly. You need new money coming into the game.
Right.
And the way that Mini Nation Royale does it is they operate in seasons. So every season there's a new character that you can then go mint, and that kind of bolsters them to have longevity and continue. I think that's a great idea. But there are other games in the Solana space that don't have that. They don't have a viable long-term business model. The game could be fun. The game may be interesting, but the idea of earning from the game just will not be there in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah. That
I
makes
think
sense.
I don't know if am I allowed to call out games like that?
Oh, you can do whatever you want.
I can do whatever I want. All right.
Yep.
All right. So there's a game that like this is a game. I gotta find it here. There it is. I couldn't remember what the name was. It's called Guild Saga Heroes. And this is like a pixelated, kind of like a Final Fantasy tactics style game. So that has already appealed to me. I am already interested in a game like this just because this fantasy RPG strategy, I'm in. Like you've sold me. Yeah, so this is the game. It's Guild Saga Heroes, and play to earn NFT fantasy RPG built on the Solana blockchain. Story mode, gauntlet style, PvE and PvP. Wonderful. When you minted these things, you can see that they had. I forgot to do this. You can see that they had like various items or whatever that were randomly already attached to said character model. And the idea with this game is that eventually you're going to be playing the game. You're going to be going out, acquiring loot, coming back, maybe selling the loot, getting in-game tokens for that. And then those tokens, in theory, you can get real money for. But the challenge is how are they going to sustain themselves? Their idea is that they want to eventually convert this into a freemium model where you can play for free, but there are premium features that you can have, and then you'll essentially be a step ahead of everybody else by owning one of these NFTs. And then your premium model is like, what are your items and how strong is your NFT, et cetera, et cetera. Eventually, it'll become an avatar, if I understand it correctly. But the challenge is that this is a really risky gambit, because there isn't a lot of opportunity for new money coming in. They want to switch to the freemium model, which could in theory work with like, pay for perks and those types of things, but it diminishes the values of the NFTs. And at this point, you can kind of see too, like, just their value has really slid down over the last few months since they're minting. Like, I could probably take even another one here.
So what stage is this project in right now? Do you
I
know?
do believe they are in beta currently. I believe they
Okay.
have a version of gamified staking. They've launched clans and et cetera, et cetera. But I struggle to see where the viable long-term strategy is for a game like this. I want it to succeed. This is a type of game that I would really love to play, et cetera. But as a play to earn game, I don't understand how this would work. To
Right.
me, this is a wonderful game that I would buy on Steam. You know, $10, heck yeah, I'm so in. Multiplayer, this style of game, yes, I would pay $20, $25 and get my friends to do the same. Yes. But as something
Okay.
other than that, I'm not sure.
So then are you saying that if it, if this whole PDE part of this game was out the window and it was just a game that you could play online with friends, you'd definitely be interested. And the way that they would be able to make money is you'd have to pay a fee to play the game.
Possibly. Yeah.
So you said you'd pay like 20 or $25, right?
Well, and see, and that's the other challenge too, right? Like, is okay, here's the other thing is like, I wouldn't pay $25 to play a game like this. I would pay $25 to play a game like this with my friends. My friends are not interested in the play to earn space because the play to earn games are typically not very good. At least they haven't had a good track record thus far of being anywhere near good. And so there's a lot that I would need to overcome in order for them to come and play. So that's the challenge with that.
Okay, right. But so some would say that the games in the PDE space are not that good because they are focusing more on the E than the P. Because
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so if you're designing your game for the earn, then you're leaving a lot to be desired on the gameplay side. That's what I would think. Or it would be, it would take a lot of resources to do both. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It would. And it's one of those things where it's like, what are you sacrificing to try and make a good game? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what is your primary focus? And also, what are your shareholders asking that you do? I'm looking up for another one here. Because in this case, like the shareholders, which are the NFT owners, are pushing for the earn mechanic. I want to earn during this game, like, and I need you to make that happen. And if it's slowing down, it's not happening, I'm going to get frustrated and I will leave. And then you'll have that exodus of a player base. And
Do you think that that's the case? Do you think that that's what the NFT holders are asking for because that's the way it's always been? And because they're just sort of like they have tunnel vision maybe about this P2E thing, and that's the only thing they can see that will bring them value.
maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of think that it might be that. I mean, if there could be presented another way, then would people go for that? In other words, there can still be value in what you've bought. There can be value in the NFT that you already own, and it doesn't have to come from play to earn. It can come some other way, and it can come from this company or whatever it is, doing things differently, building a great game.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
and yeah, and so see, here's my challenge is that so far in the overarching world of play to earn space, unless you were an early adopter to a very successful model, you're not earning. You've paid to play, and sometimes you've paid thousands upon thousands of dollars to play or to wait to play. Right, you might be earning, but you haven't earned back your investment yet. You're just recouping your costs at this point. And I think that's one of the things that I've seen a lot in the play to earn space is like, okay, I've spent a few $100s. I own this thing. Sure, I could resell it, but the value of it tanked, and the earnings that I'm having of it is like a quarter a day. Like I'd have to hold this thing for 3 years for me to earn back in some of my investment, kind of deal.
right.
That's what I see. One of the things that I think is interesting and unique when it comes to the play to earn space is a game like this one. This is DeFi Land. I haven't really played this myself. I kind of explored the concept early on. I traded and bought and sold some of their assets back and forth just to make like a small little bit when there's a lot of hype around it. But I've never played it, and I've never really seen it played. But the idea is that you're taking this you're taking this thing that actually does, in theory, make money. Like there's an opportunity there that is outside of the game, and that is something called yield farming, which is a whole other conversation, but it is something in the crypto space. There's yield, and then they just attach this gaming layer over top in language that makes sense, i.e., farming, and it's got a Stardew Valley like methodology where sure you go out and what you're doing is you are planting seeds, i.e., your money into the ground and seeing it generate a yield. And if you play the game well, it'll generate a bigger yield. And if you play a game poorly, it generates a lower yield. And so that's one way to kind of balance things out, because not everybody's going to play the game as well as everybody else. And so it kind of, you have the potential to earn a little bit more, but at least the money that is being generated has nothing to do with the game. You're just pulling it out like you would normally.
Okay. So how's
I
this
like
one
that
doing?
idea.
how
How's
how
this?
yeah, how's this project doing?
How is this project doing? Well, so it's interesting to see. So like they have done, they have delivered. So here's one of the challenges that they had was that if I look at their team, none of their team, you don't know who they are. There is nobody who has shown a face, nobody who has like, so this is what gave me pause. And they don't even have like names either. Like they're using like, images from various anime and stuff like that, style stuff. So it's kind of a challenge. Like I can see people being sus when it went around about this. But if we went on to Magic Eden, we looked up DeFi Land. So they do have some growth as it pertains to their, like if I look here, they'll have seeds and then or the utilities here. So the idea was that you would get seeds, you plant seeds, and then like you bought seeds, and then if you planted them, i.e., grew them, held them for like 30 days, you could harvest them, and they would be something random, which would help you harvest more, and or you could buy and sell those things that you harvested. So all of these things that are here, these seeds all cost one soul essentially. And so you can see that the value is down to 0.2, but I mean, down 80%. It's kind of the rest of the market is kind of feeling the same way. So it's not, it's pretty in line with everything else. But yeah, I think the game has some sustainability and has some potential for growth. I haven't played the game, so I can't comment on whether or not it's actually fun to play. But it's something I would be interested in, of like, this is something I could do, could make a legitimate money on, and have a little bit of fun doing it. Like if I could earn a little bit more than just putting it on, say, like an Orca Whirlpool by playing it this way, I probably would.
If it's like, if the fun level is tied to what I'm looking at, it doesn't seem very fun to me. But what do I know? What do I know? Regardless, it's still a P2E game. And
Right.
what I'm interested in now is, what do you call, or is there a place for the games that don't have the earn part, that they're just games? So is there a place for them, number one, and how do they sustain themselves,
Yeah.
number two?
There is. I think there always will be, right? The idea that some people just want to pay and buy a game and own it and never have to think about it again. Never have to worry about it. Like at least the way things are, right? Like if I bought like a single NFT into a game, sure, that's like buying a license to the game that I get to play it and all the rest, and own that, and that's great. But I also have to maintain security of that asset, and that can be a little more difficult. Like nobody's gonna get onto my computer and steal my Steam games. That's just not a thing. But there's always the chance that I may lose this. But there's also the constant concern of like, if it is it losing value? Is that important to me? Is the game? Yeah. But that aside, the game itself, there's always the opportunity to, I guess, focus on the game and not the earn part. And that has to count for something too. I think there's room for both, but I don't think we've seen strong iterations yet of actual games that would qualify as play to earn, that are really, really fun to play and addictive and enjoyable games. My hope is Blockstars is one of those.
Your hope is that it's fun to play and you'll
Well,
earn? Is that
at least somewhat. Like I've
okay?
certainly earned already, because when the liquidity pool first came out and I spent a
Right.
bunch of my roll and made a whole
Mm-hmm.
bunch out of that, blah blah blah. But the price has dropped to the coin, to the stable levels. But the my hope is this is a game that I will enjoy playing, and not necessarily like I'm focused on it 24/7, but this is something that like I can check in on periodically and be okay with, and navigate around and build stories around, and find community around, and those types of things. I'm excited for that aspect of the thing.
Okay.
Uh,
So then the next question is, if that's how you feel about it, right? Then
yeah.
why have it be on blockchain?
Ooh, why have it be on blockchain? I think because it opens up that possibility of me being able to, so for instance, let's say like if I were to open up my Steam, I probably should. Why don't I do that? I'll open up my Steam. I'll drag it on the screen here. And I've got like a ton of games. Like I've got so many games that I don't even know what to do with. I have like 6 of them installed, and those are the ones that I play. So it's so like if I could like all these BioShock games, I will never play. So if I could like sell them to somebody for like $5, I'd be so down. And
Okay. So yeah,
I think
I get
that
that.
if we start to think of like blockchain games like that, I think then I'm far more
Mm-hmm.
inclined.
Mm-hmm.
Or even like I love Rocket League. I do. I play it a lot. And look at that. I've got 1,300 hours playing Rocket League. I would be okay. And so Rocket League has like a little bit of a system of like, you can trade what's it called? You can trade like some of your loot that you've earned in the game, maybe something that you earned a long time ago. It has real life value. So like there are certain blueprints that you, maybe if you acquire, you could sell them on the black market for a fair amount. That is a thing. I'd like to have that a little bit more regulated.
Right.
So for instance, when it comes to the blockchain type things or this, so like with Rocket League, if I had like XYZ blueprint that was worth, like $150 in real life, somebody's willing to pay $150 for it, I would like to have a reputable site where I know I'm going to get the $150 and not somehow get scammed out of it.
Right. Okay. That makes
I would
sense.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I like that. And to me, that's where blockchain and gaming could be, is it's a
Yes.
great way around DRM, the digital rights
Right.
management.
Yes.
So games aren't being copied. You do need one to play it, but this also means like I can take that and loan the game to my friend. It's similar to like the discs that I had in Xbox, but I can't really do that with like, oh, hey, you want to play Astroneer? Sure thing. I'll just loan it to you. Like it's not really a robust thing. And
Right.
I'd
Right.
like
Right.
it to be.
Right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. It does. It does. I get that. And there is a tie for me in sort of the thing that I keep going back to because it's my only frame of reference. I have 30 some odd block stars, right? And like if I play this game, what, maybe I'll only use like 20 of them, for example. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
well, I could then sell the other 10 that I'm not using, right?
Yeah. Very true.
Um, yeah, and um I could also buy more if I needed more. you know, but the thing of it is like if and also if I got tired of playing it and didn't want to play anymore, I could just start selling.
Yep.
Um, and to me, the thing of it is, uh, there's value in that to me because if the game stays relevant and the game keeps growing and the game is still fun, but I simply don't want to play it anymore, then my NFTs are still valuable.
That's the big challenge, is like the hope that these NFTs will still be valuable, right? We got a guest. We need to talk to the guest.
The guest that kind of I'm a fangirl of, I would say.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. definitely a fangirl. Just because not only because of who it is, but because of what this person does too. Fan of both of those things.
And that person is Sherrie, the illustrious CPO of Blockstars. And we are thrilled to have you. So let's jump right in.
I'm going to start where we kind of always start in these interviews. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I have some idea that you're probably on the West Coast because of time zones and scheduling, but tell us a little bit about yourself, as much as you feel comfortable sharing, and then a little bit about also professional background as well.
Yeah, so I'll start from the very beginning. So I was actually born in China, but I grew up basically most of my childhood in Utah. And I went to the Bay Area for school and was and have been in California ever since. Recently, I think I've mentioned to both of you guys, I moved from the Bay Area to Los Angeles. But the Bay Area has been where I spent most of my adult life. And my entire career has been in tech, and I've worked across a lot of different types of industries in tech. I've worked, at gaming companies, and that's where a lot of my experience actually comes from. Worked at Zynga with Nick Okori and a bunch of the other crew at Blockstars here, but also dabbled with a SaaS product, Yammer, worked on a dating product for a long time. So if you guys have any dating questions or want to know some dating stats, I have.
Oh my gosh!
What is that? How you met your husband? Please say yes.
No. We actually met in school freshman year. So
Wow.
while I was working at the dating product, is called Coffee Meets Bagel. I don't know if you guys have heard of it.
Oh, definitely, because South Florida and all.
Yeah, we're really, really big in the States and growing in Asia. But yeah, while I was working there, I was not single for any of it. So it was really interesting trying to put on that single persona and try to figure out what the customer problems are while not being single. So that was a very interesting and enlightening experience.
Yeah, that had to be very difficult to try to put yourself in the headspace of someone that has to use that app, because take it from me, it's like a whole different like experience. Let me just say. So I applaud you for being able to. And were you a product manager for that company as well?
Yeah. So I was also running the product team there, product and design, and so it was really interesting. I grew with the company too. We started out really small, similar to Blockstars, and we grew all the way up to, I think, at the peak while I was there, a team of 50. Which, when I tell people that CMB was only at max 50 people, everybody's always surprised because they think that it's a much larger team. But while I was there, the biggest size was only around 50.
Still
But
pretty big, yeah.
Yeah, grew from, having basically just myself and the CEO as the product team to having a full team with awesome designers and other PMs.
You kind of glossed over a little bit where you talk about this is where you grew up, and then your adult life was here in the Bay Area, and then suddenly there's all these tech things. Like what got you into tech? Where did that love come from? Where did that start? Did that start at university or even earlier?
Oh my
What did that
gosh.
look like?
Yeah. So it's actually a very crazy story. I was pre-med and in sciences through most of my childhood, and in college.
Interesting.
I actually did a bunch of, I know, very crazy, but I did a bunch of internships, and most of my volunteering, it was at hospitals and in the medical field, because I thought that I would grow up to become a doctor.
Wow.
Coming from a nice Chinese family, that's
right.
The stereotype, unfortunately.
No pressure there. Yeah.
into your mind. Yeah, exactly. I remember the year before college started, I went to China, and I actually did a full-on internship in China where they don't have as many regulations. So I was actually able to inject people with IVs and do all this crazy stuff before I was even 17 or 18, which to me was crazy. I don't think that would be allowed in the US. And I was in a bunch of surgeries where I got to see somebody, there was a brain surgery or something where I got to see them cut open somebody's skull, which was crazy and made me realize I really, really don't want to be in the medical world.
That's just a nope. It's
trial by fire. Yep.
Yeah, and it wasn't even the image, it's the smell of I don't know if you guys have ever smelled burnt nails or hair.
Yes.
It was like that.
Oh no.
But even with a mask on and everything, it was that times 100.
Oh boy.
And that was what really turned me away from.
So why'd you get into tech? Because brains stink.
Yeah, so how I got into tech.
Exactly.
How I got into tech was actually my last year of college. I interned at a tech company. Actually, let me rewind. So before interning at this tech company, I was watching this TV show. It's called Trust Me. It's like a Mad Men type of a show, but it was a modern twist on the show. I don't know if you guys have heard of it.
No, haven't heard of it.
Maybe over a decade ago. It was new. And anyways, it's about these two creative directors who live in New York. They're living up life and, planning these awesome campaigns and parties for these big brands. And I was watching the show and I was thinking, wow, I want to do something creative. I want to do something in marketing and basically live their lives. It was awesome, full of parties and fun and excitement and creativity. And so I found an internship on my college job board that was it was marketed as an advertising intern at the startup called RockU. This was ages ago, so I don't know if you guys remember MySpace and widgets and all that stuff.
Yeah. I am just that old. Yes, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, it was when slideshows were really popular, and there were all these slideshows on MySpace and all these other widgets. RockU actually made one of the most popular widgets back in the day, and so that was my internship. It was at RockU on the advertising side. I was thinking that, oh, cool, I can do marketing and advertising. It ended up being more, data, user acquisitions, looking at spreadsheets, but that's a separate story. But that's sort of how I got into tech. I interned there through the summer, and I continued interning there throughout school, throughout my last year. And after that, I loved it so much, I decided to join them full time. And that's sort of how I got into tech. There's a separate story for how I got into product, but when I started out in tech, it was more on the account management and the advertising side. I love numbers and I love crunching numbers. And so what I ended up doing was, doing a lot of user acquisition for both, our advertising partners, as well as eventually RockU pivoted into building social games. They built this big game called Zoo World. And I ended up doing a lot of user acquisition for the RockU Zoo World game and playing around with different ad networks and doing all that stuff. So that's sort of how I got into tech.
Okay, so everybody knows what a CEO is. Nico's kind of the CEO. He's all the business investors, blah, blah, blah. Everybody, even if they don't know much about tech, they know what a CTO is, like what Kojo does. He's always talking about API, Solana, blockchain, so on. But CPO, I feel like it's one of those where it's not intuitive. People kind of understand it's got the word product in it, but they don't really know what it is that a CPO does.
Yeah, I think product managers, it's actually kind of a pretty modern role. I think when, at least when I was growing up, and maybe it's because I lived in Utah and that's not a very tech savvy state, but that was never really a career or a role that I had even heard of. There were maybe project managers or, different roles where you sort of manage projects, but product management, it was definitely a very, very new career and type of role for me when I first, got into it. And even now, I'm in a lot of communities where I'm trying to empower female, product managers and product owners. And I think this is becoming a more well-known role, but it is still, very modern and new. And I think different companies, will have product managers that will have different types of responsibilities. But when I usually talk to people, I like to sum it up as, you're really the glue that sort of helps the different teams and the functions perform their jobs, like execute, right? And so that could entail a lot of different things. That could, mean one day focusing a lot on, the design aspects of the product, or it could be another day testing, QAing, or even, writing specs. But at the end of the day, you're sort of the glue that sort of helps execute on the product, but also thinking very much with a business strategy hat on, so that you are building something that your customers will love, right? Yeah. And so a lot of times when you think of product management, you'll think of people who, really think about the business strategy and the roadmap. I know roadmap gets thrown out a lot, but it's really, how do you weave and build out a plan for both your team internally and your customers externally that meets certain goals or criteria that helps propel the business forward, right? So you were mentioning, okay, well, you know what the CEO does and you know what the CTO does. I think product is sort of a part of that equation that really helps execute and fulfill the goals that the vision holder, the CEO, wants to deliver on, if that makes any sense. So if Nico were to come up with, this is the vision, then, myself and Kojo would partner together to figure out, okay, well, what do we need to do to make this vision come to life? and we have team members to sort of help support all of that.
What I wrote down was that it seems to me like you really are the glue that holds everything together, and you went right to that, which is so funny. And but even on the town halls, it's sort of like you could sort of sub in and answer almost any question, which means you kind of have you dip your toe into every part of the business pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. And I always joke around and tell everybody on the team, and even outside of the team, like I have broad knowledge of stuff, but if you were to ask me or any PM to go deep, we really like can't go super deep.
Yeah,
So you know, we're good at high level. What are the different pieces and how do we actually plug all the pieces together? But yeah, don't ask us to be the Kojo or be the Dave.
Well, but
right.
there are some things that you could go in depth on, because I heard there was a story about needing a new computer because your spreadsheets are too large.
I've actually broken up the different parts now into 3 giant spreadsheets versus one. There's one spreadsheet where it's, you know, just all about the physical attributes and the different drop rates and the assets and the rarities and how that's determined. And then there's another giant spreadsheet that, you know, pulls some of that information from that first spreadsheet and determines all the abilities and what the max abilities are and how they level up. And then there's a third spreadsheet that deals with all the game actions and how the game actions are calculated and how much you earn in terms of roll and XP. So right now it's sort of split into 3, but you know, even with bands, which right now lives in the game actions one, I'm thinking about potentially splitting that into a 4th spreadsheet. So it becomes a little bit lighter whenever you run any calculations.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
Well, I am dreading the day in which I actually sit down and figure out what bands I'm going to make. Like when you actually have to click go, because I do have a lot of Blockstars, and it just seems every time I start to think about it so daunting to try and figure out what is going to be a good strat. Is that kind of that feeling just times like 100 at that point, or 1,000? Like that's how I'm envisioning it.
Well, for me, I don't actually dread it because I like it.
Well, I mean, I like it too, but it's also
nerdy.
Yeah,
it's the like I'm gonna commit to this decision. It's the decision that I don't want to make. I do enjoy.
So
that.
it's the commitment that you have an issue with. Let's be cool. Let's be straight here.
It's the commitment. So with bands, you will have the ability to disband and form a new band. Right. So it's not really a permanent decision, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about with not gonna make it. I already feel a little anxious because I know that when I burn a Blockstar, when I fire a Blockstar, that's permanent. I will never get that Blockstar back. So I'm trying to be very careful and very thoughtful about the ones that I will be burning, but I will be burning a few. There are a few that I've already marked for ready to be burned. But,
okay.
Yeah, that is the feeling
You've got
I
the
get
pink slip ready to go. You just it's already signed.
She's got HR on hold.
So Blockstars don't even know it yet.
You're just waiting for Friday afternoon, and you're gonna slide that in there.
Those poor Blockstars. So that, to me, that means so I feel like if you've already got some that are marked for NGMI, then it seems to me like you feel like this actually was like a good move, and this is actually something that, I mean, it evolved out of nowhere, but like it seems like you feel like this is the right thing to do, and this is making the game even better, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you guys know the origin story for NGMI. I'm sure we covered it in one of the, or at least alluded to it in one of the AMAs, but it came sort of out of necessity. We were thinking about bands at the time. We're still thinking about bands. Bands has been a very, very long conversation because there's a lot involved, but we were trying to figure out how do we make sure it's accessible to everybody. And, you know, with the requirements right now being so strict, not a lot of people will be able to form all these different bands because of the requirements. But we want to keep the requirements because it makes it such a fulfilling and colorful game, right? All this variety and the complexity. And so we came up with a few different ways to make sure that, you know, we can keep the complexity, but still make it so that the game is flexible enough for anybody to play, even if they don't have a lot of Blockstars with, you know, every single musical skill. And so one of the things that, you know, helps obviously is not going to make it, because now you have more control over the musical requirements, or sorry, the musical skills that your Blockstars will have, right? So you can burn them, and then if they have spots available, they can, you know, inherit the musical skills, the primary musical skills of the fired Blockstars.
Okay,
the other
that
thing
that
we're
makes
doing
sense.
that
Yeah,
we've
that
talked
definitely
about
makes
a little
sense.
bit. For sure. Yeah, and the other thing is just, you know, instead of being super strict about the musical requirements, you can actually fulfill the requirements by using a Blockstar that has a musical skill in the same family. So now instead of one for one, you have, you know, for some families, a lot more options. So that also makes it a little bit easier to play.
So my harpsichord player can actually play piano.
Yeah, exactly.
Just not very well, but
he doesn't play harpsichord very well either. So, you know, he may or may not be marked.
It makes sense, right? Keys are keys are keys.
I worry for your harpsichord player. It keeps me up at night, I'm telling you. So you said something interesting when you were talking just a minute ago, and you were talking about transferring the instrument from the NGMI Blockstar to sort of the recipient Blockstar, right? And so this is we're going to touch on one of the little
this is our disagreements over what is
true.
I
heard this disagreement. You guys had two, and this is
we did. So this is one. So when you're transferring from one Blockstar to another, the recipient must have a secondary or a tertiary skill. Is that correct?
Let me clarify one thing. You can transfer to a Blockstar that does not have more than one slot. They just will not learn the musical skill. So sort of like lose some of that benefit. So it's possible, but do you want to? I guess it's up to your strategy.
Well, nobody wants a harpsichord player. That's what I am leaning to.
No, but it seems like advantage kayargh here, because I was under the impression that the recipient Blockstar had to have at least a second slot, either locked or unlocked. So
interesting.
I stand corrected.
Okay, so what was the second argument that you and I had over the NGMI feature?
Yeah, the primary music skill.
Remember this, you guys. Yes.
The primary.
The primary the highest of your if you have more than one slot, is the primary the highest? And the answer is yes. The primary is going to be the highest. The secondary is going to be lower than the primary. If you have a secondary, the tertiary is going to be lower than the secondary if you have a tertiary. So they all sort of trickle down from whatever primary is. So
well,
I
that
think
means
that was kayargh.
I'm going to be washing kayargh's car for the next 6 months, pretty much. So, because I lose on both. That. That's okay. That's okay. I really. You know what have you heard of the Mandela effect? And I think that's what happened to me, because I was so certain, so certain. I would have bet a lot on it, but
dang it, I should have bet more then.
I know, you should have. Thankfully, we bet nothing.
So
but still.
when we previewed the NGMI feature, so there's one thing as we're talking about the secondary, and I know nothing is finalized. I get that. But one of the things we saw was when the musical instrument transferred over. So let's say I had a Blockstar that I was going to fire that had a harpsichord. Let's just say for, you know, may or may not happen. May or may not happen. And he's transferring over to another Blockstar. That Blockstar will earn, that has an open slot, will earn the harpsichord playing ability, but that ability will start off at 1. and the experience earned from the music ability of his harpsichord goes towards their electric guitar playing or whatever their primary.
The primary.
Was.
Yep.
Okay, so
Exactly.
that was intended. Okay.
That was intended. Did you guys have another? I vaguely remember. Was there another question around if your slots are full, can you switch the skills?
Yeah, because it kind of looked like, at least in the graphic, that you could.
Yes. Well, the answer is yes. So if all of your slots are full for your recipient Blockstar, you can actually swap. You cannot swap your primary. That's
locked and loaded.
No, that is locked. Yeah, that's the one that, it shows up with your Blockstar, and that is the locked one that cannot be changed. But your secondary and your tertiary, those are fair game. If they are already unlocked, you can actually go swap them out with NGMI.
So what if you have one that's unlocked and one that's still locked? Can you switch out the one? You're like, oh man, I got a harpsichord as my second skill when I unlocked it. I don't want this.
So we're gonna get a call from the harpsichord organization of America or Canada.
The harpsichord DAO inside Blockstars is gonna come for me.
Yeah.
No, so we automatically fill any slots that are
fair enough
unlocked or that are locked, and we unlock them for you.
Okay.
So
that's
good.
So I'd have to unlock the third one before I get rid of the harpsichord that frustrated me.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Exactly.
Okay, so that opens up a whole lot of strategy right there, and and possibly several more spreadsheets, but it does complicate strategy very much.
I was gonna say, I think we've come to the end of our questions for Sherrie. I think we can let her go. But before we do, I had one more thing. Are most of your Blockstars busking, or are most of your Blockstars practicing right now?
I think it's still 50-50. Let me take a quick look. So I think I have some Blockstars that and I don't know if this is like there is no right strategy, but this is my strategy, so I will own it. But a lot of my lower performing blocks or lower starred Blockstars are busking for me, and the other ones that I know I want to train up, they're practicing. I actually go through my list and I sort of look at all the ones that have really, really high practicing ability, and I automatically put them towards practicing. And then the ones that have really high gigging, I automatically put them towards busking. And then everything in the middle, I sort of just divide between practicing and busking based off of their star level. So that's sort of been my general gameplay strategy.
So expert advice there.
I don't know if it's expert advice. It's just the way
that's your strategy. Do you have your Blockstars open? Your Blockstars open currently?
I do.
What number is your favorite Blockstar? And
it's the one I use for my avatar.
What number is that
she's
one?
Like 104. She's my origin. She's the only origin that I have, and she's sort of if I were a Blockstar, I'd want to be her. She's so cool. She's like
that is cool.
A xylophone player, and she has like an awesome rainbow xylophone, and her hair is awesome. She's just really cool.
Yeah, I love the rainbow xylophone. It's so cool. I have one too. It's very cool. Well, thank you so much. I mean, we could talk to you for hours and hours and hours. It's so interesting. But thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you all for listening. We really appreciate. Did you catch the y'all? Did you catch that? That was for you. That was for you.
Oh,
just
God.
So you would understand me. So I'll do this, Canadian. It's just like, thanks for coming to talk what we talked about.
Thanks for coming.
It was so good, It was great.
We had a great time, We had some donuts and we played hockey, and now I'm gonna go outside. No, absolutely. This was very fun. The conversation was great. The interview was great. Really good episode.
Check out, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and if you one other thing is just feel free to just remind me. I kind of forgot what the score was between Cranzini and I on the bet.
So thanks everybody. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for listening.